Happy Halloween, everyone! In honor of the holiday, we're going to be discussing about the Nickelodeon Halloween episode, Halloweenie, from the Adventures of Pete and Pete. Releasing on October 9th, 1994, it was the 15th episode of the series. As you recall from my review back in 2016, looking into the Pete and Pete episode Valentine's Day Massacre, and my review of the pilot of the Amazon Prime series A Kid Called Mayonnaise, the attempt of the Pete and Pete spiritual successor, you would know that The Adventures of Pete and Pete is my personal favorite Nickelodeon live-action show. So how does their Halloween special fare out? Well, if you tuned into the last video, you already know. Let's take a look into it and learn why. The episode begins with how every Pete and Pete episode starts. Big Pete narrating about whatever his brother Pete is doing or whatever is going on that he's experiencing. This time, it's Halloween.
Once a year, like the leaves, it comes. A magical night when bedtimes disappear and identities change.
Trick or treat!
When the ghouls and goblins of our souls are set free to roam the night and scarf candy. For the true believers, Halloween is the ultimate holiday. For me, it's the ultimate dork holiday. Halloween is for Halloweenies.
However, Big Pete has lost his Halloween spirit and wondering as to why. If you listen to the Pete and Pete commentary, co-creator and writer Chris Viscardi had talked about his inspirations behind the episode.
Obviously, I loved Halloween when I was a kid, but that was definitely an age like Big Pete in this episode when I did smash a pumpkin or two. And yeah, I know. And there is like a sick thrill that you have in doing it, and you can only feel that once you get to a certain age when you're not into trick-or-treating anymore. And I think Peter Lauer did a great job of really bringing that quality out that older kids have. Like, there is something kind of weirdly exciting about destroying a pumpkin.
No, it's true, Chris. There's like this nihilism that you first are exposed to when you destroy your first pumpkin. Suddenly you're like, you lose your innocence,
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, Little Pete and Nona talk about their plans of breaking the neighborhood record of going to the most houses and collecting all the candy. However, trouble is brewing in Wellsville as a group of teenage troublemakers in jack-o'-lantern masks known as the Pumpkin Eaters are throwing toilet paper all over the place, smashing pumpkins, throwing eggs at people, graffitiing our cars and walls, and discouraging the trick-or-treaters that they deem Halloweenies. Even Frank the crossing guard had warned Little Pete and Nona that Halloween may be canceled if the Pumpkin Eaters continue to cause chaos in Wellsville.
What?
Sorry, Chief. I know how much it means to you. But I don't make the rules. The word just came down. Oh, remember, Chief, today's Devil's Night. 24 hours to the big show. Be careful out there.
Meanwhile, Ellen and Big Pete come across a line of smashed pumpkins with one whole jack-o'-lantern intact. Big Pete, growing in hatred of Halloween, threw the jack-o'-lantern down and smashed it. But it seemed that someone was watching Big Pete's destruction. It's Big Pete's reoccurring bully, Endless Mike.
Don't go ruining your appetite, boys. 'Cause tonight, we're gonna have us a little weenie roast.
We cut back to Big Pete trying to comfort Little Pete after the pumpkin smashers attacked their neighborhood, and Nona was forbidden from going trick-or-treating from her father. With hesitation, Big Pete decided to go with Little Pete to help break the neighborhood record. Ellen doesn't take it very well.
Pete, you can't go trick-or-treating.
It's no big deal.
I know what this is about. So you smashed a pumpkin. Is that worth ruining your life?
I think you're being a little dramatic.
Dramatic. I'll give you dramatic. I got 2 words for you.
Ellen, don't.
Ned Richmond. Remember last year?
How could I forget? Last Halloween, this 15-year-old phoebe named Ned Richmond went trick-or-treating. And the Pumpkin Eaters caught him. He got roasted for everyone to see. Ned's life has never been the same. Now nobody will go near him. Not even in the yearbook. But I can run really fast.
Pete, please, don't do it. Once a Halloweenie, always a Halloweenie.
Despite the risk of being caught, Big Pete decides to do it anyway. He finds the perfect costume for them to wear, astronaut suits. Big Pete likes it so that no one would see him trick-or-treating, and Little Pete likes it so that he could relieve himself in the suit. At first they were doing well, collecting candy at many houses with no signs of the pumpkin eaters, but things changed when they approached the next house.
Hooray, men from space!
Ned Richmond.
Hey, you're Pete Wrigley.
No, I'm not. I'm, Neil Armstrong.
Oh, yeah, sure. Your secret's safe with me. Hey, maybe we could go together next year. Huh, Wriggles?
Feeling embarrassed for Ned Richardson, Big Pete had decided to abandon the plan of trick-or-treating and walk home. Meanwhile, Little Pete continues his goal without him. While Big Pete is walking home, he was chased by the pumpkin eaters. Big Pete tries to hide in a haunted house-themed home, but was caught. Meanwhile, Little Pete, dragging his large bag of candy in the road, hears Big Pete over his communication headset that he was in trouble. Frustrated that he's so close to breaking the record, Little Pete decides to rescue his older brother with the help of Frank the Crossing Guard. Cutting back to Big Pete and the Pumpkin Eaters, Endless Mike proposes to Big Pete to join their group of hating Halloween together.
Do it. You know you want to. You felt it yesterday, and you feel it now.
I could feel it. At that moment, I had more power in my hands than I've ever had in my life. The power to crush the spirit of Halloween forever. But would I? Could I?
Do it. No one's looking. Sorry to hear that.
Endless Mike doesn't take it very well and was about to give Big Pete a beating, but then Little Pete and Frank the Crossing Guard come to the rescue.
You know, Flamehead, in space, no one can hear you scream.
The episode concludes with the Pumpkin Eaters cleaning up the mess they made and the Petes walking into the moonlight back home. This episode encompasses Halloween in multiple ways. It brings in a fantastic atmosphere that screams autumn. The fallen leaves, the pumpkins, the Halloween costumes, and the spooky moonlit night with glowing stars. A reoccurring thing in this series is showcasing the perspectives of a kid and teenager, and it's no exception in this episode. We see Little Pete's love of Halloween with trick-or-treating, and Big Pete's hatred of Halloween, feeling that he's outgrown it. I also really love that both made sacrifices for each other's happiness and well-being. Big Pete sacrificing his reputation for Little Pete needing a partner to trick-or-treat, and Little Pete sacrificing breaking the neighborhood record to rescue Big Pete from the Pumpkin Eaters. That's the power of sibling love. This episode also had really interesting camera angles that added to the atmosphere, from the point of view inside the jack-o'-lantern to the different dynamic character movements like the bike riding to the pool scene. This episode was directed by Peter Lauer, who had previously directed the music video Run's House by Run DMC. Pete and Pete was his first TV show directorial debut, and he would direct episodes such as King of the Road, Tool or Die, and The Call. Halloweenie was his last Pete and Pete episode before working on The Secret World of Alex Mack, and his unique style really made the visuals memorable. When Mara Eakin, a writer for the AV Club, wrote a glowing review of Halloweenie back in 2012, Dan Fisher, a prop director for the first 2 seasons of Pete and Pete, had given more behind-the-scenes details about the episode, such as the kitchen scene with Big Pete and Ellen being an homage to the 1989 film Crimes and Misdemeanors, and the line where Mona's father, played by Iggy Pop, says, "I'd have to be an idiot," which is a reference to his solo debut album, The Idiot. He also praised Peter Lauer's direction of this episode, calling it the most visually ambitious episode I was ever a part of.
So I think, we'd have to give a lot of credit to this episode, the success of the episode, to Peter Lauer, who is the director. And Peter had directed a number of episodes for us over the years. In the first season, he directed Tool and Die and King of the Road. And this season, this one was his real kind of masterpiece. and he just brought so much more to it. He just made it much more ominous and scary, and even thoughtful in a lot of ways that were not even on the page. So we give Peter a lot of credit for that.
Big ups. Yeah.
Another noteworthy thing about this episode is the closing song, Waiting for October by Polaris. This is one of their best songs that they've ever composed for Pete and Pete, with its catchy melody and quirky lyrics. I've seen various theories as to what the lyrics meant. One theory I heard of was that the song represented the end of summer and the beginning of fall. The song was called Waiting for October after all. But that theory was quickly debunked during the Pete and Pete 20th anniversary reunion show back in 2012.
There's a lot of dissection of Polaris songs on the internet, and I remember reading somebody talking about how Waiting for October was a song about the end of the world. And I thought, that is so pretentious. It's obviously a song about waiting for October, I think. I hope it is, because I love October and I like this song a lot. And I said to Mark, this song's about October, right? Because it's a great season and you like October. And he goes, Willie, it's about the end of the world, man. So.
Then I heard theories that the song was referencing the 1991 sermon that evangelist Billy Graham held in Central Park, where he stated that the world was going to end on October 28th, 1999. It seemed plausible, especially when the song started off like this.
They're playing in Central Park, and she's already shouting at the gate. Billy didn't tell you everything, or did he mention the magic day?
I decided to watch the sermon, and while that first part of the lyric to the song referencing Billy Graham was true, the rest of the song is not. First off, Billy Graham's sermon at Central Park was not about the end of the world. It was about people being overcome with stress, anxiety, doubt, despair, and sin in a time where the world was at chaos. In 1991, crime was at an all-time high with murder and rape being rampant. There was a huge drug crisis spreading amongst the youth. The HIV/AIDS epidemic was getting worse, the Persian Gulf War had ended a few months prior, and the Cold War was ending. Billy Graham was telling them that despite the overwhelming things that the world was going through, God had not abandoned them, and that he was always there for them if they seek him.
Why do people do the things they do? Why do people commit the crimes they do? Why do people tell the lies they tell? Why is there so much jealousy? Why are there so many problems in the world? It's because man has a disease, and the disease is called sin.
As for the statement about the world ending on October 28th, 1999, he never said that. In fact, Billy Graham had stated many times over the years that there is no definitive date of Jesus' second coming. He would quote the Bible verse, Matthew 24, verse 36, "But about the day or hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." After debunking the rumor of Billy Graham stating that prediction, I continued to do research on who exactly said that. Then I found a clip of Polaris performing a concert in Baltimore in 2014, and the answer I was looking for was revealed.
This next song is about a time in Harris and Jersey for myself, Muggy, and a friend of ours, Ray. He never had a fake name, I don't think.
Penny wasn't there yet.
Husbando. Anywho, we went to Central Park to take pictures of ourselves, or have our picture taken. And at the same day was a meeting of the Unification Church, the Reverend Moon. No! If there's anybody here from the church.
No!
No one's from the Unification Church.
No!
You sure? It's Baltimore. There hasn't been one anywhere else, but I was hoping for some truth in advertising, and somebody would be from the... In any case, anywho, there was a guy sitting on a rock, and I think it was screaming the prediction of the Reverend Moon, and the prediction was the world would end on October 28th. And so this is what you get. When it doesn't end on October 28th, there's this song left over. That's called I'm Waiting for October.
For those who don't know, the Unification Church is a religious movement found by South Korean religious leaders Sun Young-moon and his wife Hak Jong-han in 1954. While having some Christian views, the Unification Church had been controversial over the years due to being anti-communist, wanting a unification between North and South Korea, and their predictions of the world ending at a certain date and year. The 90s was a decade of many predictions of the end of the world. Another infamous example is another Korean religious movement called the Dami Mission, found by Lee Jang-rim. He had predicted that the world would end on October 28, 1992, and those who were worthy were sent to heaven, while those who weren't would spend another 7 years on Earth, where they would live in famine, war, and disease until the planet died off with the second coming of Christ. Then there's Harold Camping, the co-founder of the Christian radio station Family Radio, who is notorious for his end-of-the-world predictions, starting off with his book, 1994, where he predicted that the world would end on September 6, 1994. But when that didn't happen, he then predicted years later that the world would end on May 21st, 2011, and then October 21st, 2011. You probably remember seeing billboards stating this prediction. In conclusion, Halloweenie is one of the best Halloween specials ever made. It's my personal favorite Nickelodeon live-action Halloween special, and it's one that I tune into every year. Unfortunately, unlike The Angry Beavers, you cannot watch it on Paramount+. I take it due to the massive amount of music that was featured on Pete and Pete from various bands and musicians. It would take a lot of time and money to deal with the legal issues. The only official way to watch it are the first 2 seasons on DVD, but due to them being out of print, they're very expensive to buy. So, sorry everyone, low-quality VHS recordings uploaded on YouTube is the only way to watch it. Come on, Nickelodeon, release Pete and Pete on a full complete series on DVD or Paramount+. That would be great if you did. Anyway, this is a great Halloween special that I highly recommend that you check out. It still holds up almost 30 years later with its theme, its storytelling, its quirky humor, its characters, its cinematography, its music, and its spooky atmosphere.
They're playing in Central Park.